Let's have a round of applause for our first brave group to come and tell us how they're going to survive 1.5. Okay, the human and animal health group. How will you survive 1.5?
Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Common Health Committee. Thank you. Okay, so for humans, our vulnerable communities would be the elderly, disabled, pregnant women, the people with illness, women, homeless people, the incarcerated, boys and men, children, and unemployed.
And our sustainable systems are accessible healthcare. We all need shelter, our essentials, our food, our water, our medicine. For health, we're thinking about not just physical health, mental health as well, so therapy, education, because education is important for our brain. Skills bank, it kind of ties in together, so training and funds, we need funds, transportation, and we have to reestablish leadership, which is the first thing we will be doing.
So are we going to the animals, or are we going to talk about Sister Jen? Oh, you.
So based on the vulnerable communities that we decided were important to address, as well as the sustainable systems that we spoke about, we made a 5-year plan, and the first priority for us was immediate rapid assessment, just making sure we research and find out what it is in the community that we need to take care of immediately. That was 2 months in. That was our plan for 2 months in, as well as taking therapy to the different communities, measuring the budget, interviewing the community as well to see what intimate problems were present for each person involved, and as well as reestablishing immediate leadership, because at that point we realized that the government might not be organized. Yeah.
Okay, so for our second year plan, what we plan to do is educate the community about I guess this is traditional medicine and the different plants. And so one of the things that we talked about and we have underneath our sustainable systems is we have to provide medicine and healthcare to our vulnerable communities. And so we want to educate the public. We might not be able to fly in different medicines and different pills, so what different bush medicines and different teas and stuff that we can use that can be beneficial for us in the foreseeing future.
And for 3 and 5, we realized that once again, it would be important to just make sure all these sustainable systems are in place. So making a more stable means of transportation for people, because our transportation routes would be in harm's way and disorganized once again. Also reestablishing, once again, getting a sense of how much funds we have in the long term. We might be able to get immediate help from different places, but once again, making sure that we have a means of getting consistent funds over time. For people in the community as well. One of our communities that we found out were vulnerable were the unemployed, so making opportunities through our education programs as well to get everybody the funds that they need in their pocket to take care of themselves.
Okay, and for animal health, our vulnerable communities are our native flora, fauna, marine. So you think about your pine forests, your pigeon plum trees, all those type of things that are great for our Bahama land, because we're trying to get rid of those invasive species that will most likely survive this and take away our native fauna and things like that. So our sustainable systems will be planting artificial nurseries, artificial coral nurseries inside of our oceans to try and replenish what was lost. Also, we want to replant native trees, so the trees, like I said earlier, that can help with medicinal purposes. Also, endangered animal sanctuaries, and we'll need funding for this, of course, because nothing can happen without funding. And educational programs to educate everybody about the importance of the things, the animals, the communities that we have there.
And then I guess for our solutions, it's important to have a good, proper government structure. And so basically like our 1 to 5 year plan, once we have that government structure in place, we can be able to assess and do the research on what has been damaged, what invasive species are still here in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and then also what native species would have survived, and now they would have to readapt to a new climate and a new habitat, and how best we can do that. So once we have that proper government structure, we're going to reassess, look at the damage that has been done, and how best we can move forward. And then for the next 5 to 10 years to come, if the sea level or the climate level was to rise again, how best we can combat that issue. So we're going to plan ahead. Thank you.
Let's get one more round of applause for the Climate and Health Committee, the Common Health Committee, the Common Health. Beautiful name, beautiful group, doing excellent things in the end of the world. I really appreciate how well thought out and planned it was, how iterative it was. I really like the focus on the vulnerable communities and laying out what exactly those were under both the human and animal health parts. So y'all did an excellent job. And up next, I mentioned that we would be going to energy production, so I hope they're prepared to come on down to the stage and join us and deliver their presentation. Is energy production ready? Okay. Energy production is up next. Let's give them a hand as they make their way to the stage. Just a quick reminder. Each group, once you're finished, you can return the markers and stuff to right over here in the corner, Denzel. Okay, energy production is ready. Come on up. Now, I was walking around. I heard they was talking about solar. They was talking about like teething people teens because they ain't there no more. They was scrapping stuff together. They was really in the spirit of the game.
Okay, so hello. So our topic was energy production. So we drafted a 5-year plan. We also included the how, so how we're going to do it, and the connection, how we connected to all of y'all different topics, like infrastructure and all of that. So we have the how. We need land in order to implement the solar. Yeah, we need land, and then we also need funding to get the materials, to buy the land, and to basically implement all of our things that we want to do. And then we have the micro and macro grids, and then we have wind turbines. That's the thing where y'all know those things where you put it in the sky and then it turn around like from the wind, the white thing, yes. And then there's the tidal ones. That's the ones that's be in the water. That's producing energy as well. And then we have solar, which is a priority. You know, a lot of people talk about solar today. So, and then we have outreach to let people know about it, and community assessments and the connections. We have solar integrated farms that helps with infrastructure and food. Then biodiversity protection, which is animal health. Then we have green buildings like hospitals and human health. So with the green buildings, so you know, like how I said hospitals, if we were to add one of those wind turbines on top of the hospital, that would be providing energy for the hospital. So.
Okay, so year one, we're essentially laying the groundwork for all of our energy systems. First, starting off with zoning the land. We're essentially going to be allowing everyone to move into their preferred communities and selecting the most adequate form of renewable energy for each location, like according to its geographic location. what it gets the most of: sun, wind, waves, and all of that. Then we're going to have the workers utilize their skill sets. So engineers are going to be revolutionizing the builds of our solar panels, our turbines. The researchers are going to put more efforts into energy, research. And everyone's going to be working in their respective fields in order to get the most out of hold on. I trying to find a word. Sorry. They're going to be using their respective fields and just utilizing their abilities towards the cause. And taking into consideration biodiversity, we're trying to make sure that our efforts towards energy conservation are not going to be harming much of the wildlife around us. So turbines, they're going to get a lot of birds cut down. We're trying to cut that down. And, well, wind turbines are going to cause a lot of birds to die. What are they called? Water turbines? The water turbines are going to harm a lot of fish. So our goal is to ensure that they don't cause much damage to the natural environment. And we are going to be reevaluating our current energy grids in order to utilize them as effectively as possible and cut down on the amount of energy we have to use.
Okay, for the second year, he already went a little bit into it, but we realized that the sun isn't going to be out all day, and our main source of energy is solar energy. So we thought, what's going to happen when the sun's down or it's nighttime? How are we going to add energy? So we talked about, as he said, wind turbines and tidal energy. And while doing this, we thought about health and human and animal health, and we considered, like he said, the birds, they could do wind turbines, as well as corals or bonefish. So that would need further planning on where we would put these turbines and water turbines. And then we also talked about green buildings. For example, we can have households who have their own solar panels, and instead of just having that extra energy sitting around, they can contribute said energy back to the main grid that can be redistributed elsewhere, making it more cost efficient and making Bahamians more self-reliant, also helping towards infrastructure. Finally, we talked more about agrotech and farming, infusing energy in farming to make it more efficient. So, because everybody needs food, making it more efficient to where we have more food and we have energy to supply those machineries and tools like tractors and whatever you need for food. Move on to you.
Hi again. So we're looking at year 3 now, which is essentially us broadening what it is we've done in year 1 and 2. So our goal and our focus is the optimization of energy where possible and applicable. So we'll now be looking at biofuel exploration for an alternative fuel source, specifically for transportation, because as was mentioned, we'll be using things like trailers, we'll be using things like tractors, and we want to ensure that we're using the land in the most efficient sense possible. So it would be best and more sustainable for us to have our own biofuel reserves accessible on our land zonation. So we also discuss container farming as well, because seeing that the overall goal is we've already surpassed 1.5, it's already hotter than we can tolerate, let alone the animals. So by having refrigerated farming in as many areas as possible, we'll be cutting down on the amount of heat we're contributing through exhaust, and it provides another alternative for us to sustainably source food, so that we're meaningfully contributing to the community, because I'm assuming that each of us are responsible for our own areas, and we don't want to get put out because we ain't producing no energy, let alone food. So this is something we're going to be focusing on. And then we would have discussed, thank you, Kelly, for bringing it to my attention again, we're not going to be pilfering and we ain't going to be stealing, as Trevon would have alluded to. So we will be ensuring that our funding is adequately revised as we expand, because everything we're doing is unfortunately a little expensive, but it's necessary. And unfortunately, if we don't do these things right from the onset, it'll be more expensive.
Who's finishing?
So,
Okay, so let me go quick. For year 4 and 5, we have everything set up. What we basically want to do is maintain what we already have started, maintain our solar panels, and we also want to hire and train people to be able to fix these solar panels and wind turbines and water turbines, as well as expansion of energy, putting more panels out there, more turbines, more water turbines, and social communities, adding more solar panels to the houses and whatnot, so they can continue to add and contribute to the grids, so we can continue to have the energy distributed, making everything more affordable and sustainable. And finally, the replacements of the systems. Say some of our solar panels or turbines break down, we want to be able to replace them, and that will continue on for the rest of the years to come. Thank you. 5 seconds to spare. Let's clap them up, clap them up. Yeah, y'all on the timer. Okay, so I heard about decentralizing energy production. I heard about democratizing energy production. Everyone has a say in the energy system in their world, in the 1.5, post 1.5 and everything, which is really crucially important. Getting more thoughts and opinions in the room to contribute to how do we solve these issues when the crisis is upon us. So, I hope you all are noticing in the planning and the discussion around these themes is that a lot of the challenge with this exercise is the fact that you've already passed the point of no return, which kind of emphasizes the importance of working from now ahead of that time, so that when we get to that point, we already have these kinds of plans in place, and all we're doing is turning from here to what we're doing now to, like, well, now we're over here, here's our plan, here's our emergency plan. All of these brilliant ideas that are coming out are already there and organized, so we can just follow suit. So up next, we're going to have the infrastructure team come and tell us how they are planning to survive 1.5. Infrastructure team. They look like they're still planning. Is your stand?
I got it. You sure?
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
So our vulnerable communities would be those areas prone to sea level rise, hurricane damages, extreme heat, and other effects of climate change. And since we have already passed the 1.5, and everything beyond this point is just getting worse really quickly, we decided to go the post-apocalyptic route, like after a major hurricane, basically. And this is our little action plan right here, and you can't really see it, but in our first year, we will be planning and educating, basically just getting everybody in the community, gathering them together just to let them know about the situation and making everybody aware of like what all steps we need to take next to better the situation, and just doing assessments of what needs to be done. In our second year, we plan on tackling waste management, cleaning up public areas, removing debris after a storm, installing efficient and up-to-date waste management facilities like wastewater and full recycling facilities, and using water sanitation kits to test the water, and also using nature-like bushes like soap bush to disinfect, and just taking a more nature approach to the situation.
Okay. Okay, I'll take the last 3 years in our action plan. I want to give a shout out to our team, some of which were in the audience, and you contributed all these great suggestions, which I'm going to try my best to incorporate into the third step. Climate resilient and socially inclusive facilities. So the name kind of speaks for itself, but this is where some of these points on this piece of paper that I'm holding up come in. Climate resilient and socially inclusive facilities. These would include, sorry, this is very awkward. Repurposing old buildings, which I believe are called brown spaces, but correct me if I'm wrong. That would be part of this. Bearing in mind the first two steps were more like dealing with the immediate seriousness of the situation. Repurposing old buildings, this is more preventative, you can say. Yes, this third step here says coastal infrastructure adaptation. You may have heard of buildings on stilts. I tried to illustrate that right there, or floating buildings. These are, it's grim to imagine this is what we'd have to do, but this would be an example of coastal adaptation to sea level rise. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. And hurricane shelters. A group member, one of our good group members, did mention that it would be a good idea, I don't know if you could tell from the illustration, but to have hurricane shelters built on the highest points of the islands. Let's be honest, the urban planning hasn't been very good so far. So most homes are, in the wake of sea level rise. So that would be part of climate resilient and socially inclusive facilities. Socially inclusive in that it considers the greater population. Fourth step, fourth year in our action plan, environmental health and safety. So, correct me if I'm wrong. This includes things like clean energy and solar, like clean energy listed as step 6 right here, including solar and hydro energy. Again, more preventative, we can say. But in the post-apocalypse, that is 2030 to 2035, this being 2033 by now, solar and clean energy will be it falls under environmental health and safety in the sense that it's a preventative measure, you can say. Anyway, okay, I might get this wrong. Water sanitation falls under environmental health and safety? Yeah? I mean, I'm asking my group partner, but yes, if you agree on that, I will roll with it. Yes, water sanitation as part of environmental health and safety. I mean, it's fairly obvious, but with the issue of sea level rise, there comes a lot of water contamination. Water tables becoming like when the sea and existing fresh water supplies mix. On top of all the devastation that comes with hurricanes. Saltwater intrusion. Thank you. Thanks very much. That is a term for that. Yes, anyway, so that creates a situation where there is a greater level of water contamination to bear in mind. And finally, year 5, urban planning. So pardon me? Yeah, okay. Well, what I was going to say was what was interesting about the plan we created is that we kind of started out with what we can call, well, you can't see it, that's just an abbreviation, but remedial measures of dealing with this apocalyptic sea level rise situation through our infrastructure. So with urban planning, with the other steps out of the way, the water contamination, the education, the informing people of the situation, then we deal with urban planning, figuring out what we're going to do with our spaces. Now, I did mention repurposing buildings earlier, but as my partner here just pointed out, road safety would be something to consider as part of urban planning. I can't say it enough that urban planning has been inadequate so far. So in this apocalyptic situation, road safety, as well as more green spaces. This is a big point of mine. When you're walking on the roads here in New Providence, or perhaps on any family island, like how much shading is there from the heat? Does that mean we have 1 minute? Does that mean? Okay. Do we have, like when you have, you don't have shading from the heat on the roads when you're walking on the roads because they're just cutting down all the trees. So in our post-apocalyptic year plan, we're going to have more trees on our roads. which are called canopies, as noted here. The tree cover shading is canopies. More green spaces, more spaces that you can access for your own health. Green spaces, like the parks that are accessible with improvements to roadworks and infrastructure. I mean, for the sake of circulation and for people to get around. More utilizing of that. And a little bit of repurposing buildings and hurricane shelters. If we're pretty much out of time, I guess I should just wrap that up.
Hold on. Also, a major point that he also forgot was drainage systems, because when those areas that are prone to flooding, they probably lack a lot of drainage systems. So when it does flood, there's nowhere for the water to go. So that is why they flood. So yeah, proper drainage systems in our urban planning.
Let's clap them up, clap them up, clap them up. We have food security as our final group to join us on the stage. Infrastructure has laid out how we're going to respond to these vulnerable areas using our urban planning, our awareness around infrastructure and how it can be helpful, our awareness around the environmental safety aspect of different things in our environment in this post-apocalyptic situation. I really enjoyed the inclusion of both drainage systems. So SUDS, Sustainable Urban Drainage Systems, is one of the focal areas of sustainable urban planning, and also the repurposing of the brown spaces in the old buildings. So now, food security, are y'all ready? They said they're not ready. Can you all hype them up a little bit for me, please? All right. Who's taking the mic from me? Perfect. How will you survive 1.5?
Okay. So, in order to combat food insecurity, especially in the post-apocalypse, in the 1.5 degree threshold that we've passed, we've decided to implement regenerative agriculture systems that utilize conscious design. So we're looking at both marine and land for our food system and making sure that we can get crops to feed our entire population year-round. Okay. Am I ready? Okay. So in year one, we're going to have an environmental literacy program where we get the reading level up, because if you can't understand the words that we're using, then you can't understand the problem. And the problem is we don't have food. So there's going to be education and curriculum about the problem. And marine education is also another problem that is lacking. We're going to talk about the solution in terms of composting, urban gardening, organic farming, more closed seasons for fishing so we can replenish, workshops about proper fishing etiquette and laws and rules, as well as artificial reef building to increase fish population. In year two, we're going to go to research on the different areas. So that's going to look like mapping the zones where we can plant a lot of farms or start. No, you're good. Thank you. So we can start looking at these areas where, okay, we know this area has good soil, it won't harm the environment too much, and we're going to start using that word conscious design to create these farms where we know we can feed people, and we're increasing food capacity in different islands, different communities, so on and so forth. Down in the corner we have rooftop farms and hydroponic farms as well. So those things are also smaller capacity building measures that will be taking place or being implemented, because like you guys said, we don't have much land, and some of that land will be inundated, and some of that land will go to development and so on, and some of that land needs to be protected. We're also going to be trying to change building codes so we can start harvesting rainwater, because all of this food needs water to grow. It needs so things like gutters and swales need to be implemented. Gray water systems, maybe some composting toilets. I know some people feel a way about that. And another thing is chinampas. So we have lakes. We have these fresh bodies of water on our islands. And if we can go to our neighbor Mexico, they have these freshwater systems called chinampas where they build up on the edge of their freshwater bodies using willows and other trees to create like a basket that they fill with mud and compost to then plant on top of. So you eliminate some of that watering, because that new made ground is simply a sponge that you can plant in, and you're increasing the surface area in which we can plant. So now you're creating artificial land to grow on without damaging the land. And we're going to need to partner, not party. We're going to need to party. I mean, we need to partner with a few people like Bingus, SDGU, the IDB, CARDI, BASFRA, and BAMSI to get this capacity going. In years 3 and 4, we evaluate these pilots, we tweak the model, and we start training to scale. And in year 5, we do a little bit more mapping to scale these solutions. Our goal is to get food security to at least 40% in these 5 years.
So in closing, when food security is strong, people can thrive. But when it is weak, hunger, malnutrition, and hardship increase, especially in vulnerable communities. This is why it is important to support, not only support, but teach local farming, reduce food waste, and prepare for emergencies to protect our food supply now and in the foreseeable future. We must build climate-resilient farming system, use drought-tolerant crops. By fighting climate change and adapting to its impact, we can help ensure that everyone has enough to eat.
Thank you, everybody.